Hello, welcome to the mini story for The Race. Let's get started. It was 5 o'clock and Alan was riding his motorcycle in San Francisco.
Oh,
When was Alan riding his motorcycle?
at 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, and Alan was riding his motorcycle.
Well, at 5 o'clock, right? At 5 o'clock, Alan was riding his motorcycle. Was Alan riding his car? Or was Alan riding his motorcycle?
Motorcycle. Alan was riding his motorcycle.
Well, of course, Alan was riding his motorcycle. Where was Alan riding his motorcycle?
In San Francisco. In San Francisco, Alan was riding his motorcycle.
In San Francisco. Alan was riding his motorcycle in San Francisco. When was he riding?
At 5 o'clock.
At 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, Alan was riding his motorcycle in San Francisco. He was riding down Van Ness Street and came to a stoplight.
Oh,
Who was riding down Van Ness Street?
Alan. Alan was riding down Valley Street and comes to a stoplight.
Alan. Alan was riding down Van Ness Street. What was he riding on?
He's riding on motorcycle.
Well, on a motorcycle. He was riding on his motorcycle.
Oh,
Was he riding down Market Street? No.
Valley Street.
No, not Market Street. He wasn't riding down Market Street. Was he riding down Lombard Street? No. He
He was riding down Valley Street.
wasn't riding down Lombard Street. He was riding down Van Ness Street. When? When was he riding down Van Ness Street?
At 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, Alan was riding down his motorcycle on Valley Street.
At 5 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, he was riding down Van Ness Street.
Oh,
Who was riding down Van Ness Street at 5 o'clock?
Alan. Alan was riding down Valley Street at 5 o'clock.
Alan. Alan was riding down Van Ness Street at 5 o'clock.
Oh,
Was he in a truck?
No,
he wasn't
his motorcycle.
in a truck. He was on his motorcycle. And he came to a stoplight.
Oh,
Did Alan come to a go light?
came to a stoplight. Alan came to a stoplight.
No. He didn't come to a go light. He came to a stoplight.
Oh,
We never say go light. We only say stoplight. Who came to a stoplight?
Alan. Alan came to a stoplight.
Alan, of course. Alan came to a stoplight.
Oh.
What was he on when he came to a stoplight?
He came to a stoplight.
A motorcycle. He was on a motorcycle when he came to a stoplight.
Oh.
Where was the stoplight?
On Valley Street in San Francisco.
Well, on Van Ness Street. The stoplight was on Van Ness Street.
Oh.
Was the stoplight on Embarcadero Street? Or was the stoplight on Van Ness Street?
Valley Street.
Van Ness, of course, Van Ness. The stoplight was on Van Ness Street.
Ah.
Who was at the stoplight?
Alan. Alan comes to a stoplight.
Alan was at the stoplight.
Oh.
Which city was Alan in? In San Francisco, of course. Alan was in San Francisco.
Wow.
Where is Van Ness?
In San Francisco.
Well, Van Ness Street is in San Francisco. Of course, Van Ness Street is in San Francisco.
Ah.
Is Van Ness Street in New York? Or is Van Ness Street in San Francisco?
It's Valley Street in San Francisco.
Well, of course, Van Ness Street is in San Francisco.
Ah.
Where was Alan riding? Oh, he was
He's riding down Valley Street.
riding on Van Ness Street in San Francisco. And he came to a stoplight. A red Ferrari pulled up next to him.
Ah.
Did the red Ferrari pull up behind him?
No, a red Ferrari pulls up next to Alan.
No, 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 not behind him. The red Ferrari pulled up next to him. What pulled up next to Alan?
A red Ferrari pulls up next to Alan.
A red Ferrari. A red Ferrari pulled up next to Alan.
Ah.
Did Alan pull up next to a red Ferrari?
Ah.
No, no, no. Alan didn't pull up next to a red Ferrari. A red Ferrari pulled up next to him. Where did the red Ferrari pull up next to Alan?
It's Valley Street in San Francisco.
At a stoplight on Van Ness Street. At a stoplight on Van Ness Street, a red Ferrari pulled up next to Alan.
Ah.
Was Alan in a red Ferrari? No, no, no.
A red Ferrari pulls up next to Alan.
Alan wasn't in a red Ferrari. He was on a motorcycle. Alan was on a motorcycle. What did the red Ferrari do?
A red Ferrari pulls up next to him.
Well, it pulled up next to Alan. The red Ferrari pulled up next to Alan. The driver was wearing dark sunglasses. So, Alan was wearing dark sunglasses.
No, the driver wearing dark sunglasses.
No, not Alan. Alan wasn't wearing dark sunglasses. Who was wearing dark sunglasses?
The drivers wearing dark sunglasses.
The driver of the Ferrari. The driver of the Ferrari was wearing dark sunglasses, not Alan.